Well, welcome back. I've got the base up here and I've clamped the face frame to it temporarily. That way I could cut out the end panels and clamp them into place. So all I have to do now is trace around the inside and I'll know exactly where to cut the toe kick notch. We've got a lot to get done today, so let's get started. All right, I've got my two end pieces cut out and I've got the mark on here for the toe kick, and I've taped the two pieces together with double stick tape. I transferred the marks over to this side as well. I've set the fence on my bandsaw and I'm ready to cut out the toe kick notches. And there we go. Nice. I could have cut this with a jigsaw, but it's just such a nice finish here with the bandsaw. I'm using a wood slicer blade from Highland Woodworking, and it's like a finished edge. All right, well, I've mocked this up again to make sure my toe kick was exactly right, and now I'm ready to glue on this end panel. And I'm going to glue it on both ends at the same time. Now, I am not going to glue the face frame on yet because I still need to fix this center divider panel and support for the top. But we're going to get the two end panels glued on, and what we're going to do is going to loosen these clamps here. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this out and I'm going to make a mark here at 4 1/4 inches. Now remember, we had 3 1/2 inches for the height of the base frame and then 3/4 of an inch for the plywood. So at 4 1/4 inches up, I'm going to make a mark and I'm going to draw a line across there, and that's going to be actually just shy of that is where I'm going to stop the glue, because I don't want glue bleeding out on the inside of the cabinet. It's just a little thing there that be less to clean up. So now I'll put glue below this pencil line and I'll glue this panel in. I'm going to glue the other one in at the same time because my clamps are long enough to clamp both ends. And once those end panels are on, then we'll size our support to go across the back and to hold this piece centered. And we'll attach this. Then we'll glue the face frame on. All right, now with our two end panels glued into place, I've cut and mocked up the installation of the center panel, and I want to glue and screw that into place right now. Now what I've done is I've cut several pieces of wood here that are the correct length between here and here and here and here. And I'm using them right now instead of clamps to hold this board in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out, I'm going to put a little glue on it, and then I'll put it back and wedge these boards back in here to hold this while I screw it down. And these are really nice and tight. Okay. And I'm not going to glue this to the face frame at this point in time. I'm only going to glue and screw this to the bottom of the cabinet. And because I've got pocket hole screws here, I've positioned those pocket hole screws on the left-hand side. At least when you open the cabinet, it'll be the least visible place. I frankly don't like to see pocket hole screws inside an assembly. You can cover those up with things, but I still find them to be relatively unattractive. All right, now with that kind of wedged in place, I'm going to put a clamp on the top just to help hold that down. And then we'll just run in the screws. Okay, now I'm going to let that set up for just a little bit, and then we're going to come back and we're going to use these boards. I'm going to put some pocket holes in the ends of them, and we're going to use this to complete the back side frame of the cabinet. And then once that's done, we'll glue on the face frame, and this cabinet will essentially be finished except for the doors. All right, now I've got my frame construction boards. I've cut pocket holes in them, and I'm just going to start putting these one by one into place. And again, we're not going to glue the face frame. We're only going to glue the individual boards, and the face frame will be the very last thing that we glue into place. So I'm going to put a very small amount of glue on here. To avoid any squeeze out or rub off. All right, and I'm going to clamp these into place real well so that the pocket screws don't actually move the board as it's being screwed into place. The only thing about pocket screws is you have to clamp your plate pieces, or the pocket screws themselves, by the force of the screw, will pull your boards out of alignment. I'm just making sure that I have these flush to the top, flush to the ends. Oh, that one's up just a little bit. Let's bring that down. There we go. Okay. And I'm going to put one clamp lengthwise to squeeze the end panel and the center panel together onto this frame board. And then we'll just put in our pocket screws. Okay. So now I can remove these clamps, come over here and put this board in, and then I'll have a board here at the back and one at the back at the bottom. Now, you may be wondering about this masking tape. I might as well admit to you, I made a mistake. When I cut the center panel, I measured, I thought very carefully, but I actually cut it about 1/16 of an inch short. It didn't come to the exact top of the face frame. So I used my table saw sled and I sliced off a 1/16 inch thick piece of plywood from the same end of the plywood that I cut this panel from and glued it into place. And actually, you can't even tell that there's a patch there. And of course, since that's at the top of the cabinet, it won't show. But I made a little mistake, but I fixed it and I'm moving on. All right, so now with the cabinet construction essentially completed, it's time finally to glue on the face frame. I've turned the cabinet over on its back to make it easier, so it's just a matter of a little glue and a lot of clamps. All right, now as I always do, I'm going to let that tack up for a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes, and then we'll clamp on the face frame. Now, this face frame goes flush with this end down here. And leaves an overhang at that end for scribing purposes. And just like that, we're in good shape. Now, my most important consideration is to make sure that my face frame is absolutely flush with the floor of the cabinet on the bottom. And if I'm a tiny bit over at the top, that's going to be okay because I can plane that off quite easily and we'll be in good shape. So let's get the other end squared away. All right, now, deep reach bar clamps are awesome. Got to have some of these. I think that's enough clamps. Let that set up overnight, and that cabinet is finished except for the doors. So here's our small section of the bath vanity. It's essentially complete. I've done a little superficial sanding and I've taken the measurements so I can calculate the sizes of the doors. But for now, I'm going to put this cabinet away and start on the primary vanity. So let's get going. All right, now I've taken the finished smaller cabinet and I've moved that upstairs out of the way. And I brought down the base and the face frame for the primary vanity, and I've set that up on some work supports here in the shop. Now I've clamped the face frame to it, and I've gone ahead and cut out from maple plywood the end panel for the end that's going up against the wall. There's no toe kick cut out, it's just a straight rectangular piece sized correctly. So I went ahead and cut that out, and I've clamped that into place. It's not attached either. What I need to figure out now is what's going to go here. Now I could put a plain piece of maple plywood notched for the toe kick, and it would look good. But I really want it to look a little jazzier than that, and here's why. Because when you walk into the bathroom, to the right will sit this vanity. And this will be the first thing that you see is this end. So let's go over what this is going to look like when it's finished. The face frame is walnut. My doors will have maple rails and stiles and a walnut raised panel insert in the door. So basically when you look at the front of the vanity, it'll be walnut, maple, walnut. So I'd like to do something like this at this end. Now I could make a fake door and attach it to the maple panel, but that would stick out. And I want to have a certain amount of overhang on my vanity top. So I'd really like for this to be flush, but I still want to get the walnut, maple, walnut look. So I've got a way to do that. But unfortunately, we're out of time in this video, and I've got a whole lot of lumber to mill to get ready to fabricate this solid wood decorative end panel. So I'm going to go mill that wood, and in the next video, I'll show you how we're going to put that together. It's going to be kind of interesting. I'll look forward to seeing you in that video, and thank you so much for watching this one.